Hello! So this is the Gates of Yannis, Chapter 3. There are a total of 18 chapters, so I'm not really sure if I'm going to continue doing each chapter separately, or maybe cover 2 chapters at a time. I don't know. They're relatively short, so I guess we'll see. I don't know. I do have a little concern because I did lose one subscriber. I don't know who it was or why they unsubbed. I hope it wasn't because of this series I'm doing. I don't know. I was hoping that this would attract a certain type of audience, other people interested in true crime, but it hasn't quite yet. I guess we'll just see what happens. I do care about what my audience wants, but I mean, if they're not gonna tell me why they left, then I guess I'm just not gonna worry about it. It probably wasn't this. Maybe they were just doing sub for sub and got upset when I didn't sub. That's probably what happened. Now I crave a sub. Anyways, yes, let's get to it. Chapter 3. So we've sort of gotten to the point where Brady has stopped generalizing people. Instead of saying all, he's saying most. And he opens with, he believes that most people are too self-absorbed, deeply immersed in their own immediate appetites and mundane problems, to basically have original thought. He feels that they are regurgitating secondhand or generally popular opinion. Such people seek safety in the stale cliches and platitudes programmed into them since childhood. And I'm reading that from his book, sorry. And I kind of agree with that. I work with the public. I meet a lot of people every day, so, socialize with a few of the same people every day, and yeah, I don't want to think of myself as superior, and I don't like to do that. I'd like to think that everyone has something valuable to offer this world, but unfortunately, because of the society we live in and how things work, because of education, because of the media, I'm gonna have to agree with this and say, yeah, a lot of people share a lot of the same opinions. Popular opinion. Yeah. And it's hard to go against popular opinion. It makes you an outcast to society. You have to stick with what's socially appropriate. And that doesn't even have to do with crime or psychopathy. That could be like anything, really. Okay. So then he progresses into, if you disagree with his thoughts on that, he encourages you to think about how we all believe that we are unique and possess some kind of character, but we don't really have character. And that's kind of like hard. That's kind of hard to hear, because I think we all want to believe that we're like special and unique. Like since we're a little kid, I'm pretty sure we've all felt that we were special, that we were different. But maybe we're not so different. And I think it's modest to acknowledge that. And I think it's amazing that he even talks about that. The next part's a little scary though. I keep saying that about, well, this whole book is scary. But he takes that and he mentions that serial killers often think. They have the same superiority complex, which then makes you think, okay, so if we all kind of feel like we're special and serial killers feel like they're special, then maybe we're not that far away from how serial killers think, which is what Brady's been trying to make you think about this whole time. So, anyways, at first I thought this book was really disorganized, but the more you get into it, the more the puzzle pieces kind of all fit together. And I'm not endorsing what he says. I don't support what he says. I'm just analyzing it and trying to piece it all together and share my thoughts. In case anyone thinks that I'm turning into a Nazi or something. Okay. So he argues that their superiority complex could be a paradox, a symbol of being inferior. So it's like, what? Okay, so like, mind blown. But it's amazing that he admits that. That he even admits that even serial killers think they're special. I mean, obviously they... Mojo! Baby! Come here! Which makes me think, how easy is it for someone who shares popular opinion, someone who is normal, how easy is it for their mind to sort of recess and become psychopathic? Like, how common, what amount of people are psychopathic? And do they even know they're psychopathic? Like, woo! Okay. So once he talks about, you know, the general population and how, what they have in common with serial killers and psychopaths, he goes on and he talks about I think he's talking about like true crime. People who make a living off of telling stories and writing about what murderers have done. And Brady feels that the people who make a respectable living from writing about crime are more corrupt than the actual criminals. And his reasoning is that the actual criminals, like, they take responsibility for what they've done. So along with the recognition, if you could call it recognition or fame or remembrance they're getting with their crime, they are getting some kind of punishment. But the true crime writers or the newspaper reporters or whoever who are writing about other people's crimes and making a profit from that don't deserve it because they don't get the punishment, which is bizarre to me because actually committing a crime and then writing about the crime and making money off it is like totally two different things. I think it's more of like he's upset, he's kind of jealous that people can write about what he's done or about him or things he's said and make a profit off of it. Like, he feels like that is his story and that belongs to him, and that's kind of scary. Yeah. While reading this, I oftentimes remembered things that Marilyn Manson said about how we don't remember victims. We remember the serial killers' names. Their victims are not remembered, but like, you know, Charles Manson, we remember his name. Like John Wayne Gacy, we remember his name. We don't remember the victims. And that murder is almost a quick, easy way to fame. Instead of writing a book or creating something or contributing something in the world in order to get your name out there and be remembered, you could theoretically, and I'm not telling anyone to do this, I'm just saying as an example, hypothetically, you could go and shoot up a school and kill a bunch of people and then kill yourself, and then your name would be remembered forever because of that one evil deed that you did effortlessly. And that's sickening. The media needs to focus more on, and I'm being a hypocrite myself because I'm making videos about Ian Brady. You know, I should be talking about his victims, and I'm this is a valid point here that murder leads to fame. There's a quote in here that he writes that such is the competitive alchemy of fame and infamy, the stroke of a bloody axe, often outliving that of the pen. And that's it in a nutshell. People remember killers, they don't remember the victims, and that's something that we all need to work on. That's something I need to work on. After his little rant about fame and others profiting off crime, he talks about like, he doesn't go into detail, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Forgive me. Okay, never mind. Wrong page. Then he kind of gives us this insight into a serial killer's life and how amazingly he admits that they've failed at normal walks of life, that they lack the patience, compromise to have an ordinary modern life, which I believe because most serial killers, they don't finish school. It's boring to them. They crave something more than that because they're not normal. They can't just go work a day job. I mean, even though some of them have, they need to have some sort of like stimulation. Like they're constantly thinking about, well, I don't know, because I don't know how psychopaths think, but from what I've read, they're constantly craving this like stimulation. This left an impression on me. What he says next. In actuality, subconsciously or consciously, the serial killer has emotionally chosen to live one day as a lion rather than decades as a sheep. So they might try to live a normal life. They might try to have a day job, but they just can't do it. They can't be a sheep. They're a lion. They have to give in to this dark side, this darkness that they have. And that's really scary. Just think of what people are struggling with that and how many are going to give in. Ooh, okay. So he starts off with that, serial killer is bored with their life, and it progresses into when they actually commit their first crime, and how some of them might still retain the common human tendency to have fear-induced guilt. And keep in mind, I'm paraphrasing what he says. So, does that mean that they're actually feeling guilt, or is that just a fear of being caught? is guilt a result of just social conditioning? Like, what? So I'm thinking, did he experience that? Did he feel fear-induced guilt? I, I don't know. Then after the first crime, he says, once the killer has committed the second act, he will gradually accept his own acts as normal or supernormal, and that the rest of humanity is subnormal and weak. So, once again, is he talking about himself? Did he experience that? Or is this just things he's read and learned about? Is this typical for serial killers to experience this? Or is it just him? Or just like, oh my god. By a process of logical extension, the killer sees himself as following the example of society's legalized killers, only freelance, but he considers himself superior to legal killers in that he accepts responsibility and the risk of penalty from which the officially sanctioned are exempt. So, basically he's saying that people who kill outside of the law and are punished are superior to psychopaths who kill within inside the law because they escape punishment. But that holds no respect if you tried to hide your crimes or didn't turn yourself in. So I'm not sure what he's trying to say, and I feel like that's all I'm saying this whole time for this whole book. I'm not sure what he's trying to say. So yeah, it's just amazing. I found this interesting, how he interprets true crime writers. Making a lucrative living from criminals and their crimes should engender a guilt complex, yet he appears to possess no moral scruples about demeaning the victims of the crime by lovingly describing every horrific and intimate forensic detail of their final moments. And I have read some writers like that. Like, they go into super graphic detail about crimes, but not every crime writer is like that, and they might not lovingly be describing it. They're going the extra mile to tell you what happened to this person for educational, academic reasons. Like, maybe someone is learning forensics. Maybe they're learning how to look at a crime scene. Just because you see it as lovingly describing doesn't mean it was. Maybe you can't see it any other way because you're a killer. I don't know. I don't know. He seems to hold a grudge or some kind of envy or jealousy of people who are writing about crimes who don't actually commit the crime itself. They get to sort of, to him, have this kind of indulgence without getting in trouble, and they make money from it. Well, you know what? Maybe instead of killing people, you should have took that darkness within yourself and contributed to the world with entertainment. Maybe you could have made a horror movie. Maybe you could have written a book about a killer killing people instead of actually killing people. Okay, I need to, like, calm down. Okay. Oh my god. So, moving on from that, he talks about how life imitates art. Film actors do not act like gangsters. The gangsters act like their film counterparts. And I think, yeah, he makes so many good points, but the points he's making and what he's using them to support is a totally totally flawed argument. But he's still making good points. Yeah. Which made me think of another thing Marilyn Manson said. He had a song called I Wanna Kill You, like they do in the movies. There's another quote that's along the lines of, what is it? Is entertainment killing our children? Or are children killing entertainment? Or something like that, where basically he was trying to illustrate how entertainment and media and movies affect us. How people imitate it. So yeah. That's a good point. Little disorganized, he goes on to talk about psychotic killers, dissociative reaction, and how he thinks it is a possibility for psychopathic people to have a psychotic episode and they can't help themselves from killing someone because they find someone, they're faced with a victim so physically attractive or psychologically appealing that they literally cannot resist the impulse to attack. And that's what I meant to talk about earlier, where I got ahead of myself. The traits of the perfect murder victim. Like, what are they? Are they different for other killers? He says, physically attractive or psychologically appealing. Should we make ourselves really ugly so we don't get murdered? What is psychologically appealing? Is it somebody who's so stupid you hate them? Or is it somebody who's smart? What makes the perfect victim, and what traits should we be avoiding? Someone please tell me. Okay. I want to keep this short. I don't want to go to 40 minutes like the first video here, but yeah. Another thing he said that really made me think was criminals can be as impulsively good or evil as the normal person, but are, for social and political motives, always defined exclusively by their evil acts. Well, they are. When you do something horrible, people can't picture you being a loving father or brother or doing something kind for anyone in your whole life. And yeah, that's wrong. We should be looking at people as a whole, even if they have committed a murder or are in prison. We should try to see the good in everyone, no matter who they are. I'm not saying that they shouldn't go to prison, but I'm saying that we need to look at people as a whole. We need to consider everything. I had a vegan friend who was trying to kind of pick my mind, reason with me, try to get me to change my thoughts on something, and he asked me if I believe that all serial killers and child molesters should be put to death, and I assumed that he predicted that I would say yes. But I said no. I said that I value all life, even people who've done horrible things. I believe in forgiveness and redemption, and I don't think it makes sense to kill someone for killing. And he's just like, you're really weird. Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. Whether their acts might be interpreted by an opposing culture as insane or depraved, as already indicated of no consequence to them, it is not that they lack a morality, but that they believe in a strikingly different individual form. Even amorality is a mode of morality. I can't read. So, okay. Then he goes on to define psychopaths. And this is amazing. This is very creepy to think about. He says the socially acceptable psychopath reigns supreme. Some of them are highly successful, and it's in their nature. Makes me think, does intelligence correlate with psychopathy? I don't know. Each one of you, whether high or low, regularly rubs shoulders with socially acceptable clinical psychopaths every day without the least awareness. Oh, that's creeping me out. Well, I don't do it, like, without awareness. Like, every day I'm questioning, like, is this person a psychopath? Are they a psychopath? Do they have psychopathic tendencies? To the point of where it's probably a little too much. I should probably stop thinking about it and just live my life. But, like, this is what I find interesting. This is what I do for fun. I like to read this stuff. I like to analyze people. So that's something I consider every day. I mean, I guess most people don't, but I'm always thinking of, who am I rubbing shoulders with? That's a psychopath. Then he just lists off a bunch of traits of psychopaths. Cold, calculating, manipulative, lack of sensitivity, pathological anger, envy, suspicion and lack of trust, egocentric conviction that they're always right, lack of remorse, etc. And we've all heard this. Does any combination of these features of the psychopathic personality remind you of someone in your household, a relative, a friend, a workplace, a politician, or even yourself? And I'm like, oh, that's creepy. He kind of concludes the chapter with, like, all the research on psychopaths has been done on psychopaths in prison. The criminals who've been caught, who are being punished, none of them are the psychopathic elite who are in charge, who murder within the law. None of the research has been done on them. And even if you did try to do research on them, they would find a way to get their doctor to be like, no, they're fine. That's true. However, there was a TED Talk about psychopathy where he interviews a psychopath who's in the mental institution, and then he kind of tries to analyze someone and find a psychopath who's outside of prison, and he goes to visit him under the guise that he's interviewing him for something else, and he asks him these questions about, do you have self-delusions of grandeur? And the guy just rationalizes everything. He says, well, no, I'm just confident, and you need confidence to be successful. And he asks him, do you feel like you have a narcissistic personality, or that you feel you're better than other people? And the guy's like, well, no, but maybe I am, and maybe it's good to admit I am. And he's like standing in front of a painting of himself on the wall, and it's hilarious. I'll have to link it. But it's true. We only have studies and brain imaging done on psychopaths who are in prison, and it would be amazing if we could study and analyze psychopaths who are these what he calls socially acceptable psychopaths, and figure out, how do they function in life? How do they differ from imprisoned psychopaths? Because there's plenty of psychopaths in the world who are valuable, functional members of society, who don't kill anyone, who are successful. So that's a great point. I wish we could. But most people who are psychopaths, I don't think they realize they're psychopaths, and even if they do, they probably wouldn't want anyone to know. So, yeah. I noticed throughout this chapter that Brady seems to have some kind of, like, beliefs of justice that he applies to everyone else, to true crime writers, to socially accepted psychopaths, but he doesn't really apply it to himself. Reading this, he seems very intelligent. He doesn't seem insane to me at all, or suffering from psychosis. But, I'm not a trained professional, but I'm starting to think maybe he really did fake his psychosis and insanity. He's definitely a psychopath, but the psychosis, I don't know, he seems like a pretty smart guy. He definitely has strange ideas, but I don't think he's insane. He's definitely a psychopath, but yeah, I wrote down, does psychopathy correlate with intelligence? And then I wrote a little note here, because he's talking about psychopathic politicians. I wrote down, the 2016 election. When I watched the debates, all I could think about was Hillary defending a rapist when she was 27. How she didn't step down and defend her own morality and quit her job. She defended a rapist who raped a 12-year-old. I'm like, I put my own morals before everything else, and even if I had to lose my job over it, I wouldn't ever defend a rapist who raped a child, let alone. I'm thinking about Trump and how he never paid taxes, like, at all, and he wants to put Hillary in prison when he becomes president, and they both just seem so self-absorbed and I don't know. At the end of the chapter, he writes, study your leaders more, your prisoners less. He has a point. I don't agree with his main argument that crime is okay, that murder is okay, that it's justifiable. I don't agree with that, but I think he's right about how psychopaths are everywhere. And the ones who are socially acceptable, we don't know anything about them because we've only studied the ones who are in prison. And these are people who are in society. You might see them every day. They might be your president. So, yeah, something to think about. Let's be careful. Okay, bye.